the secret Nazi Antarctic expedition, Operation Highjump 1947. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into today's incredible story, I need your help. YouTube's algorithm has been making it harder for content like this to reach people who are genuinely interested in hidden history. So please, hit that like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and ring the notification bell so you never miss these untold stories. Your engagement is what keeps this channel alive and allows me to bring you more mysteries from our past. Thank you for your support. In the frozen wastelands of Antarctica, beneath miles of ice and decades of official silence, lies one of the most controversial military operations in modern history. What started as a simple scientific expedition in 1947 would become a massive military undertaking involving 4,700 men, 13 ships, and 33 aircraft. But why did the United States suddenly launch the largest Antarctic expedition in history just 2 years after World War II ended? And why, after planning an 8-month mission, did they abandon it after only 2 months, retreating in what can only be described as panic? The official story speaks of mapping coastlines and testing equipment in polar conditions. But declassified documents, survivor testimonies, and mysterious incidents paint a far more sinister picture. This is a story of Operation Highjump and the secrets that may still be buried beneath the Antarctic ice. To understand what really happened during Operation Highjump, we must first travel back to the final days of World War II. As Allied forces closed in on Berlin, Nazi Germany's most brilliant scientists weren't just working on conventional weapons. Deep in underground facilities, they were developing technologies that seemed to come from science fiction. Flying discs, advanced submarines, and weapons of unimaginable power. But as the Reich crumbled, many of these scientists didn't surrender or die with their Führer. They vanished. Along with them disappeared entire research facilities, prototype aircraft, and most disturbing of all, detailed maps of Antarctica showing areas that officially had never been explored. The Nazis have been fascinated with Antarctica since the 1930s. In 1938, they launched the German Antarctic expedition, claiming a massive territory they called New Swabia. They dropped thousands of metal markers across the continent, each bearing the Nazi swastika, claiming the land for the Third Reich. But their interest went far beyond territorial expansion. Admiral Karl Donitz, commander of the German submarine fleet, made a cryptic statement that would haunt Allied intelligence for years. My submariners have found an earthly paradise for the Führer in Antarctica. What did he mean? What had they discovered in that frozen wasteland that could be described as paradise? On December 2nd, 1946, the largest military force ever assembled for a polar expedition departed from the United States. Leading this massive undertaking was Admiral Richard E. Byrd, a legendary polar explorer who would become a household name for his previous Antarctic adventures. But this expedition was different. Where Byrd's previous journeys had been primarily scientific, Operation Highjump was unmistakably military in nature. The fleet that sailed south was more suited for war than exploration. The flagship USS Mount Olympus was accompanied by the aircraft carrier USS Philippine Sea, the submarine USS Senate, destroyers, supply ships, and a massive support crew, most telling were the weapons they carried. Enough firepower to level a small city. Admiral Byrd himself seemed troubled by the mission's true nature. In interviews before departure, when asked about the expedition's goals, his answers were unusually vague for a man known for a precise, scientific approach to exploration. "We are going south to find out what we need to know about Antarctica," he said, his usual enthusiasm noticeably absent. According to official Navy records, Operation Highjump had 3 primary objectives: to establish research bases, to train personnel in polar conditions, and to extend American sovereignty over Antarctica. The public was told this was about mapping coastlines, studying weather patterns, and testing equipment in extreme cold. But military analysts noted troubling inconsistencies. Why would a mapping expedition require destroyers and submarines? Why did the mission briefings classify large portions of their intended route? And most puzzling of all, why were the expedition members issued live ammunition and told to prepare for combat situations? The expedition was divided into 3 groups, each with specific territories to explore. But one group, led by Admiral Byrd himself, had a destination that wasn't on any public map: the interior regions of Queen Maud Land. the exact area the Nazis had claimed as New Swabia. As the expedition progressed into the Antarctic interior, strange reports began filtering back to the United States. Pilots reported unusual aircraft that moved unlike anything in the American arsenal. These objects demonstrated flight characteristics that defied known physics: instantaneous acceleration, impossible turning angles, and the ability to hover silently before disappearing at speeds no propeller or jet aircraft could achieve. Lieutenant Commander David Bunger, piloting a reconnaissance flight over the Bunger Oasis, reported something that shook him to his core. In his official flight log, he described discovering an ice-free area with lakes of warm water, despite being hundreds of miles from the coast and in the middle of the Antarctic winter. But it wasn't the geographical anomaly that disturbed him most. It was what he saw moving beneath the water, object of considerable size moving under the surface, he wrote. Unlike any marine life previously cataloged, movement patterns suggested artificial propulsion. Even more disturbing were the reports from ground teams. Soldiers reported finding areas where the ice had been melted from below, creating vast caverns that seemed to extend deep into the earth. Electromagnetic equipment malfunctioned inexplicably. Radio communications were jammed by unknown sources, and several reconnaissance teams reported encounters with personnel of unknown nationality operating advanced equipment in areas that should have been uninhabited. The event that would end Operation Highjump prematurely occurred on February 26, 1947. Admiral Byrd was leading a flight over the polar plateau when his aircraft encountered something that defied all explanation, according to his personal diary. Discovered years later, Byrd's plane was approached by a disc-shaped aircraft that demonstrated technology decades ahead of anything known to exist. What happened next reads like science fiction, yet comes from private writings of one of America's most respected explorers. Byrd claimed his aircraft was somehow guided to land in a warm, green valley hidden deep within the Antarctic ice. There, he was met by beings who spoke perfect English and demonstrated technology that seemed almost magical. But the most chilling part of Byrd's account wasn't the advanced technology. It was a warning he received. According to his diary, he was told that humanity's nuclear weapons represented a threat not just to Earth, but to forces far beyond our understanding. The beings, whether human or otherwise, made it clear that further military incursions into Antarctica would be met with decisive resistance. Whatever happened during that flight changed everything. Within hours of Admiral Byrd's return, Operation Highjump received emergency orders from Washington. The 8-month expedition was terminated immediately. Ships that had been anchored for long-term research were suddenly weighing anchor and heading north. The official explanation was mechanical failures and harsh weather conditions, but crew members later reported that their departure had nothing to do with equipment problems. They had been ordered to evacuate immediately, and the urgency in their commanders' voices suggested they were retreating from something far more dangerous than Antarctic storms. The losses during Operation Highjump were far more severe than officially reported. While the Navy acknowledged the deaths of several personnel, surviving crew members later claimed the casualties were much higher. Aircraft were lost under mysterious circumstances. Entire research teams disappeared, and at least one ship suffered damage that the Navy blamed on ice, but crew members insisted came from external attack. Upon returning to the United States, every member of Operation Highjump was required to sign comprehensive non-disclosure agreements. These weren't standard military confidentiality forms. They were documents threatening severe punishment for anyone who discussed specific aspects of the expedition. Even decades later, when most military operations from that era had been declassified, Operation Highjump remained shrouded in secrecy. Admiral Byrd himself seemed changed by the experience. The man who had once enthusiastically shared his polar adventures with the world became increasingly reluctant to discuss Antarctica. In his few public statements about Operation Highjump, he spoke in cryptic terms about discoveries that could affect the future of mankind. Most telling was a statement Byrd made to a Chilean journalist shortly after returning. The United States will be attacked by fighters that are able to fly from one pole to the other with incredible speed. When pressed for details, Byrd refused to elaborate, saying only that the information was classified at the highest levels. Over the decades, evidence supporting the more extraordinary claims about Operation Highjump has slowly emerged. Declassified documents reveal that the expedition did encounter unknown aircraft and that several incidents were classified far above typical military operations. Personnel records show that many crew members were transferred to isolated assignments upon their return, effectively silencing potential witnesses. Former crew members, speaking anonymously in later years, describe encounters that matched the descriptions in Admiral Byrd's secret diary. They spoke of aircraft that moved without sound, of areas in Antarctica that were unexplainably warm, and of orders to retreat that came with an urgency that suggested immediate danger. Perhaps most intriguingly, satellite imagery from recent decades has revealed anomalies in Antarctica that support some of the expedition's more fantastic claims. Areas of ice-free land exist in locations that should be perpetually frozen. Geometric patterns visible from orbit suggest artificial structures beneath the ice. And thermal imaging has detected heat signatures in regions where no known geological activity should exist. Operation Highjump marked the beginning of a new era in Antarctic exploration, one dominated by international treaties and carefully controlled access. The Antarctic Treaty, signed just 12 years later in 1959, established the continent as a zone of peace and scientific cooperation. But critics have noted that the treaty's language seems specifically designed to prevent military operations like Highjump from ever being repeated. The expedition also marked the beginning of modern UFO phenomena. The wave of flying saucer sightings that began in 1947, just months after Operation Highjump's return, has never been satisfactorily explained. The descriptions provided by civilians across America matched remarkably well with the reports filed by Antarctic expedition members, reports that remain classified for decades. Today, Antarctica remains one of the most restricted and monitored places on Earth. While officially dedicated to peaceful scientific research, the continent's military significance has never diminished. Every major power maintains a presence there, and the technologies being developed in Antarctic research stations often have military applications. The questions raised by Operation Highjump have never been fully answered. Was the expedition's abrupt termination really due to weather and equipment failures? What did Admiral Byrd encounter during his flight over the polar plateau? And most importantly, what secrets might still be hidden beneath miles of Antarctic ice? Recent developments have only deepened the mystery. Climate change has begun revealing areas of Antarctica that have been covered by ice for millennia. Some of these newly exposed regions contain structures and artifacts that challenge our understanding of the continent's history. Advanced ground-penetrating radar has detected what appear to be artificial chambers and tunnels deep beneath the ice sheet. Operation Highjump remains one of the most mysterious military operations in American history. What began as the largest polar expedition ever assembled ended in hasty retreat and decades of official silence. The testimonies of those involved, the evidence that has slowly emerged, and the continued secrecy surrounding the operation all point to encounters that challenge our understanding of what was possible in 1947. Whether Admiral Byrd and his expedition encountered surviving Nazi technology, unknown indigenous peoples, or something far more extraordinary, one thing is certain. They discovered something in Antarctica that the world was not ready to know. The fact that these secrets remain classified more than 75 years later suggests that whatever was found beneath the Antarctic ice is still considered too dangerous or too revolutionary for public knowledge. The legacy of Operation Highjump continues to influence how we explore and understand Antarctica. The continent remains a frontier where science and mystery intersect, where ancient secrets lie buried beneath miles of ice, and where the questions raised by a hastily terminated military expedition in 1947 still demand answers. As we continue to unlock Antarctica's secrets through modern technology, we may finally learn what Admiral Byrd and his expedition encountered in those frozen wastelands. Until then, Operation Highjump stands as a reminder that some discoveries are too powerful for their time, and some truths remain hidden in the ice. What do you think really happened during Operation Highjump? Was it a cover-up of Nazi technology, an encounter with unknown civilizations, or something even more extraordinary? Share your theories in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more hidden histories that challenge everything we think we know about our past. Until next time, keep questioning the official story.